Tashidale, and welcome back. We are now in week 14 of the course, so we're getting close to the end here. And today we're looking at chapters 30, 31, and 32. And so this chapter is, number 30, is Pranayama, the yoga of the winds. And the first of these completions, the 6 completion stage practices in Kalachakra, we started with withdrawal, which basically refers to withdrawal of the senses, and then meditative absorption, and then now the pranayama. And then we will move on to retention, recollection, and meditative concentration, just to give you the overview of where we are here. So this particular branch is referred to as wind accomplishment. So we have channels, drops, and winds. So this is the wind being referred to here. So it has 2 main outlines. First, pranayama, which is bringing the winds into the duty or central channel and having halted their flow in the left and right channel. So we halt the flow first and then we bring it into the central channel and work with it there. So retention then, the next of the yogas, is stabilizing the winds in the duty. So once we've ceased the flow in the side channels, we've brought it into the central channel, then we get control of it within the central channel. So pranayama is bringing the winds into the duty, and so we have 6 headings here, the first 3 of which are addressed in this chapter. So we have the meaning of the term, the time, the branches. So those are the 3 that we focus on here. And then in chapter 32 on Vase Yoga, we will cover valid cognition, purification divisions, and results. So the first of the headings, meaning of the term pranayama. So prana refers to the winds. Amaya can be referred to as effort, stopping, and lengthening. So that gives 3 different potential translations: wind exertion, wind stopping, and wind lengthening. So here we're concerned with the second and third of those, the wind stopping and wind lengthening. In Kalachakra, pranayama is taken to mean wind stopping. Okay? Then it refers to Guhya Samaja as an alternative view of these practices, where prana means life and amaya means to lengthen. So it has a very different kind of a meaning in that context. In Kalachakra, the winds are stopped, and moving to the next page, from flowing in the left and right channels and brought into the duty. So then he goes through some grammatical discussion here in that next paragraph. And then the next topic, the second one, is the time for the first meditation. And at the bottom of the page, quoting from Tsongkhapa in his notes on Kalachakra, the function of pranayama is to bring the winds into the central channel. Keeping the winds in the central channel is the function of retention. So that's the next one that we will look at, but not the one we're looking at right now. On the next page, 477, just below the middle part of the page, it's the last quote there, notes on Kalachakra. In general, the highest yoga tantras talk of the winds entering the duty, dwelling in the duty, and dissolving in the duty. Here, dissolving in the duty is referred to as binding, mixing, and killing the winds. So giving us a little bit of the terminology being used. And then in the Guhya Samaja and other tantras, body isolation and speech isolation bring about the entering, abiding, and dissolving of the winds in the duty during one continuous practice. So a little bit different kind of an approach is described in the tantras for this. Here, the pranayama brings the winds into the duty, and retention keeps them there. Skipping about 4 lines, killing the winds occurs in the 6th branch of meditative concentration. Then in the next paragraph, our own position is that the empty forms of withdrawal and meditative absorption have been seen and stabilized. The branch of pranayama is illustrated in the Vajra yoga, should then begin. So we brought them in, we've stabilized it, and so then we do this. Now, the pranayama is broken down into two sections, and so Vajra yoga being the second of those sections. At the bottom of the page, then, we have the third topic of the branches of meditation, which has 4 outlines. We have the path, the divisions, the meditation, and the enhancement ritual. Excuse me. So we identify the path first of pranayama. The appearance of the empty form Kalachakra in mother and father embrace. Within the center of the navel chakra, indivisible from clear light mind that has arisen from the very special entry of the winds into the central channel, brought on by Vajra recitation. It's the first of the 2 parts of the yoga of the winds. And Vajra yoga is the path of pranayama. So those are the 2 main parts. So this chapter is giving us more of an overview, and then the following 2 chapters go into more of the details of those 2 parts. In the quotation, it says, when the yogi is divorced from the paths of the sun and the moon, that'd be the right and left channels, and is constantly within the central channel, he will be purified by the pranayama. So pranayama can also be viewed as a purification process here. But what is to be purified? The clear light mind and empty forms are the phenomena to be purified. So it's similar to Tantra when we talk about the approximate clear light and then the ultimate clear light or actual clear light. So we have to go through this process of purifying that until we attain the more ultimate level of that. Skipping a couple more lines, this occurs when the sun and the moon, right and left channels, are divorced from the flows of the wind. And then skipping another line or 2, the empty form Kalachakra in mother-father embrace is the actual path of pranayama. So on one hand, we talk about Kalachakra and Vishvamati as being in union, but in this context, we're talking about them as being a non-conceptual form of this. So it's more of a transcendent form. It is the Kalachakra, but it's not in the form of Kalachakra as we usually visualize it. So then the winds enter the center, or the central channel, divorce of objects, embracing Vishvamata. So we'll come back to that in a little bit. In the next quote it says, the center of the 2 winds meeting means in the center of the navel. So it's in the central channel, but within the central channel, it's at the navel chakra. This is the object of focus here. Moving to page 480 then, how does this teach that the empty form appears in the center of the navel chakra? By meditating on the Vajra yoga of pranayama, the life-sustaining wind and downwardly expelling wind meet at the center of the navel chakra, where the arising and engaging of object engagers, such as the eyes focusing on objects, such as forms and so forth, has been halted. Okay, so we're no longer focused on specific objects. The empty form signs of smoke and so forth, and especially empty form Kalachakra in mother-father embrace, are perceived as being inside the avaduti, and this is inside the center of the navel chakra. In the next paragraph, wherever one focuses within the duty, there the winds will gather. So it is important where we are focusing when we're doing the practice. And at that particular place, an empty form Kalachakra in mother-father embrace will definitely arise of its own accord. So it's there but unseen. It's unconceived and unimputed by the mind. Therefore, during Vajra recitation, when the empty form at the upper end of the duty enters and mixes with winds, there is no need for separate visualization of it arriving at the navel. Then Vase Yoga will bring the life and downward winds to meet at the navel, and the union of these two winds is meditatively focused on inside the duty at the center of the navel. So that gives us a good overview of what happens in this process. And then the category of divisions here. It talks about other masters that talk about 6 divisions of Vajra recitation: inhalation, filling, expelling, Vase Yoga, and Raksha, or particle limit. But the notes on Kalachakra say Tantra and commentary mention only Vajra recitation and Vase Yoga. So only those 2. So some sources give more categories here, but in the commentary, the notes on Kalachakra, there's only those 2. And these 2 will accomplish the purpose. They do not need to be supplemented by other things. So let's continue on then into the next chapter, 31, the Bhadra recitation. So this is the first part of Pranayama. And so we have here, we talked about identifying the path and the divisions, and so this kind of continues that outline here. So this is the meditation, and it has the Vajra recitation and the Vase Yoga, the 2 main parts here. First, Vajra recitation. And it also has 2 parts, the purpose and then the actual meditation. The purpose is first described here, and down toward the bottom of the page from the Chakra Samvara commentary. Pranayama means blocking the left and right paths of Lalana and Rashana so that the winds are constantly in the Avaduti. So that was what it talked about in the previous chapter, that by doing that we block those off and keep the winds in the central channel. So starting at the bottom of the page and then continuing on to the next page, this is the function of both types of pranayama. Skipping a line or 2, although the Chakra Samvara, does not describe Vajra recitation directly, it does teach Vase Yoga. In the Chakra Samvara commentary, both are described. So even though it doesn't give the label, it actually describes both of those. Then the meditation. This is the main part here, which has 5 headings: the place, posture, eye position, focus and method, and then the signs of accomplishment. So the place here is the same as within the withdrawal section that we looked at previously. The body posture is similar to withdrawal and meditative absorption, which were both the same, but there's a slight difference here, and that is that the heel of the right foot does not block the anus but presses against the base of the Vajra. So a slightly different position there, the right foot. And then the eye position is called the look of Amrita Varta. Can't pronounce that very well, sorry. But this is, as in withdrawal, that the eyes are turned upward toward the location of the white bodhicitta drop or nectar in the duty between the eyebrows. So again, you're looking up toward the eyebrows, the center between the eyebrows, as we were talking about previously. And then, continuing on the next page below the quote at the top, the eyes cannot look at the winds, so it is mental consciousness that actually looks. So it's in your mind. It's not a visualization. This refers to focusing upon the entering, abiding, and leaving of the winds during Vajra recitation. The Om, normally we think of it as Om Ahong in Kalachakra. It's Om Hong Ah, different order. And the life and downward winds joining at the navel during Vase Yoga. So then we have the focus and method of meditation. So this is the 4th part, again from the Chakra Samvara commentary. Starting on the 3rd line, In the yogas of filling, vase, and arising, the syllable Om in the Avaduti brings about the entering. The syllable Hung brings about the halting, and the syllable Ah creates the arising. So this is what I was referring to in terms of the order of the syllables being different here. And then whose natures are the moon, Rahu, and sun. This is Pranayama. And then skipping down in the commentary there to about the 6th line, the innate tone of the breath entering arises as the sound of Om, the moon body Vajra syllable, and is visualized as entering the duty. The innate tone possessed by the breath abiding internally arises as a sound of Hung, the Rahu mind Vajra syllable. So in all of these cases, when it's talking about the sound, as it mentions here, it internally arises. It's not that you're actually intoning those externally, like Om. It's mentally imagined. And then it is visualized as abiding in the duty, which is the meaning of vase and halting. The innate tone of the breath being expelled arises as the sound of Ah, whose nature is the sun, speech Vajra, and is visualized as being expelled from the duty. This is the arising. This is the Vajra recitation meditation. So just as in Tantra or in Dzogchen, where we have these same practices, then we do very similar kind of thing here. Couple of little minor variations in terms of some of the specific details, but basically the same kind of a practice. Continuing on, he says, Naropa cites from the Chakrasamvara commentary here, and down on the 4th line, Om brings about entering, Hung brings about halting, and Ah creates the arising. And then in the next quote, in the middle of the page there, at all times, the yogi meditates on the winds that enter and arise as being in the central channel. So again, our focus is completely in the central channel as we go about doing this. If we skip down to the end of the 5th line, I think it is here, in the next paragraph, the Chakrasamvara commentary talks of winds constantly entering the Avaduti. These quotes point out that it is a constant flow of wind in and out of the central channel, and not the stage of abiding that accomplishes the function of Vajra recitation. So the winds are coming in and going out. That's the same way as in Tantra, but it's continuous. They come in, they abide, and then they go back out again. And we visualize as we do that in that practice. So it's the same in Kalachakra. Skipping down in the next paragraph to about the end of the 4th line there, Guhya Samaja speaks of the entering the wind as Om, the abiding as Ah, and the wind is being expelled as Hung. So this is what I was referring to before, where the order of the syllables is Om, Ah, Hung, the more common orientation of that. And then the next line, there are no differences insofar as they are all pranayama yogas that block the flow of the wind in the right and left channels and bring it into the central channel. So even though the order is a little different and there's a couple of other nuances, it's all accomplishing the same thing. And then on 487, there is a long quote from the Great Commentary saying, there is no counting or saying of the mantra. Okay, so you're not counting how many times that you recite this, nor are you actually reciting it verbally out loud. So then in the next line, concentrate on the letters of the mantra entering and leaving like a garland of flowers. So it's coming in and it's going out. It's a continuous, there's no stopping. It just comes in. Although there is usually the Ah or Hung, if you're reversing them for Kalachakra, there usually is referred to as a brief stopping there. But otherwise, it's a continuous flow, going in, going out. And then the yogi performs 108,000 recitations in 5 days. The 500 days the yogi recites on 10.8 million breaths. Then the body becomes pure. Likewise, the speech is purified, and similarly the mind. So all three of those, the Om Ahong, body, speech, and mind. In this way, the breath of the 1500 days remain unmoving, and the state of the vase wind is achieved. And then also, in the next part of the quote there, the definitive meaning is that at all times it is stabilized, and at all times during the vase yoga, which of course follows Vajra recitation, the yogi meditates on the winds that enter and arise as being in the central channel. So that's a lot of repetitions to do, but that is the standard for Kalachakra. So there's a strong commitment here if you're going to be doing this version, at least, of the Kalachakra Tantra. And then he also has an explanation from Bhutan Rinpoche. The very last couple of lines here says, in one day, 21,600 recitations are performed. In 3 blocks of 500 days each, body, speech, and mind are purified, and one has reached the time for vase yoga. So the Vajra recitation is done a lot of times. Now in Tantra, in the Dzogchen, Korde Rushen, we talked about 700,000 repetitions. So this is more than what is required in the other version. So in the middle of the page, that large paragraph there, down about 5-6 lines, it talks about the winds and mantras being separate, and it's incompatible with Vajra recitation. So we just talked about counting. I mean, how do you do this if you're not counting all of those repetitions? Okay? But he's saying that is inconceivably. So you don't actually count them. What you do is you do it for so many days. Okay? And so that is how it is accomplished. And then on the bottom of page 489, says, to summarize our own position on Vajra recitation, the eyes and body are positioned as previously explained, and at the beginning of the practice of Vajra recitation, regardless of whether the winds are actually flowing in the right or left channels or the central channel, the incoming breath is visualized as descending within the central channel to arrive at the center of the navel chakra. There it remains, however long the duration of one breath may be, then it arises, so it does again through the central channel. The innate tone of the breath, innate because it's not actually verbalized, entering as visualized as Om, the innate tone of the abiding as Hong, and the innate tone of leaving or arising is visualized as Ah. So that gives the idea of how this is performed, but it's done in a visual manner rather than a verbal manner. And then skipping a couple of lines, the breaths resonate as the sounds of the 3 syllables as if they were actually being heard. It takes place in the central channel within the center of the navel chakra. From, skipping a couple, 3 lines here, from Pranayama onwards, it has to be an appearance in the central channel as the center of the navel chakra. And so the it referred to here is the special empty form that we've talked briefly about and we'll get back to. So, here we go again. Down below the quotation, the next paragraph there, an actual empty form Kalachakra in mother-father embrace that is not just an appearance within the mind of the yogi is first developed during the branch of recollection. And the place where it is developed is in the central channel at the center of the navel chakra. So this is a process later on. So it's just visualized in the beginning, but later on becomes a reality. And then this special empty form is the empty form Kalachakra in Mother-Father embrace, developed during the branches of Pranayama and Recitation, which is the parts that we're talking about here, which arises unconceived and unimputed within the yogi's mind. So it's differentiating between the actual empty form and the special empty form, the special one being the appearance, the first appearance in the mind. This too must arise in the central channel at the center of the navel chakra. Skipping a few lines, therefore the Vajra recitation is applied to the process of entering, abiding, and arising at the navel, and it is the location that the Vase Yoga holds the winds together in union. So the Vase Yoga, it actually begins talking in here about the Vase Yoga, even though it's the focus of the next chapter, but it kind of introduces it in this chapter. So again, to summarize on 491 below the two quotations at the top, to summarize, I'm going to skip the first 4 lines or so there. The clear light, whose nature is the primordial mind, appears in unification with its images at all stages within the meditations of the 6 yogas. These images are empty forms, especially the countless Sambhogakaya forms, which appear like phenomena in clairvoyant mirror. Although the final clear light cannot be actualized until the attainment of omniscience, nevertheless, when the winds are initially brought into the central channel by the power of meditation, a little of the clear light mind is experienced. So this is what we might call the semblant clear light, or the idea of clear light. So we get a little bit of it, but we haven't really accomplished the actual clear light yet. So during the stages of the peak, entering, abiding, and dissolution, the clear light mind becomes progressively clearer, and the empty forms also become clearer. So this is very similar to what we do in the 6 yogas of Naropa, where we're talking about the clear light there. So similar kind of process. And then skipping down to the end of the 4th line in the next paragraph, as long as there are no separation from desire for the union of the 2 organs, because this would be the physical union with the karma mudra, the empty forms are seen with the clairvoyance of the celestial eye, from the completion of the branch of recollection in which the Mahamudra consort has actually been created, and separation from desire for karma and wisdom mudra consorts is attained. So we've gone beyond that at this point. The empty forms are seen with the Buddha eye. From attaining the unchanging bliss on the first of the 12 bodhisattva levels, the forms are seen with the eye of wisdom. So it's a visualized or wisdom dakini, a wisdom consort. The perfect and complete enlightenment is attained. Empty forms are seen with the eye of gnosis. So the gnosis, of course, being the wisdom aspect there. Then skipping the next commentary, which kind of repeats that, and then the great commentary talks about, with direct cognition, Sambhogakaya forms arise. And so the forms are seen, and the 3 worlds and 3 times are like dreams and illusions. Sambhogakaya form. That's the same as when we do various deity yoga practices in Sambhogakaya form. Here, the beginner yogi without clairvoyance sees various forms with the fleshly eye. Then, with the attainment of clairvoyance, they are seen by the celestial eye. With the attainment of separation from desire, they are seen by the Buddha eye. With the attainment of the bodhisattva stages, they are seen by the eye of wisdom. With the attainment of the full and perfect enlightened mind, they are seen by the gnosis eye, freed from remainder. In this way, the fleshly eye of the Tathagata and the other sights that make up the 5 eyes, which are the ones we just went through there, are for seeing of emptiness. Other living beings are blind to the objects seen within the view of emptiness. So it goes through those 5 forms of eye: the fleshly eye, the celestial eye, the Buddha eye, the eye of wisdom, the gnosis eye, and those 5 eyes, as a progressive stages of being able to directly experience emptiness. And then the next paragraph, starting on that 4th line, in the illusion-like post-meditation times when the winds flow in the right and left channels, the empty forms do not appear. So that's why we have to bring those winds from the side channels into the central channels. Otherwise, the forms don't appear. Okay? Then on the next page, finally, we have the signs of accomplishment. And from the notes on Kalachakra, the heat of bliss, seeing the channels and the colors of the winds, and so on, and then skipping down to the 4th line below that, are like seeing visions in a dream. And although some may be genuine, they are unreliable. And skip down a couple lines. The Vajra recitation should be performed for 6 months. And in the 4th month, the colors of the chakras are seen. This is the actual sight of the chakras. And skipping a line, the most important thing is that the unmistaken signs of the winds having entered the duty must arise. So the signs related to bringing it into the central channel are the really critical things here. So we'll take a short break.